Hi, it's Mark Murphy, and this is TravelTube.com. Just a quick reminder, if you haven't signed up at TravelTube.com, please do so and follow us on all our social media, as well as all your favorite podcast apps. We're on Apple, Spotify, and the Amazon podcast app. But today, I'm going to jump into a handful of news items. One's obviously very current, it's the government shutdown. I'm going to discuss the feelings of Canadians versus Americans when it comes to travel. And I will point out that the disgust in fees with hotels and resorts in particular in the US is growing and is growing pretty quickly. Fox had a article on it just today. And the last thing I'll wrap up with is how to protect your data when you're traveling. Because when you travel, you expose yourself to a lot of things, not just pickpockets and petty theft and things of that nature, which can take your hardware, but hackers who can steal your data. Now, right off the bat, I want to get into the government shutdown because it is impacting, in some cases, certain parts of the country and certain air traffic control towers at specific airports. Why? Well, they're required to be there, even though their pay may get held up and is getting held up, not may, is getting held up while this goes on. Now, you may ask yourself, why do we have a government shutdown? Well, we had a government shutdown for a very basic reason. And I won't show the video, but you can just go back and look at videos of Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer talking about having a clean CR, which is a continuing resolution. There should be no argument about that. There's nobody should be stuffing things into it because the shoe was on the other foot, a decade ago, let's say. And it's always interesting when someone says something like that and then turns around and forces a government shutdown, which is what the Democrats did, whether you like it or not, because they wouldn't sign off and vote on a clean CR. Nothing changed. Now, remember, folks, just a few months ago, what happened? The Republicans passed with no Democrat votes what they called the Big Beautiful Bill. And in that bill, they rescinded things like these payments for health care for what are illegal immigrants. Now, you can try to get into the weeds, and I'm not going to do this. It's not a political podcast, but I'm just spewing facts. And the fact of the matter is, when you designate somebody in the country in a certain way, then they are entitled to those benefits. And that's what happened in the last administration. That's what got stripped out a few months ago. The law is now the law. And just a few months later, they're trying to add $1.5 trillion of this stuff into the bill. Not going to happen. And that's why we have a shutdown. So with that said, what do you need to know? Well, you need to know that it is impacting certain areas, but it's not massive cancellations like you'd see at a snowstorm or a hurricane. It's a lot less than that. It's a handful. Now, of course, on certain sides of the political aisle, they're trying to make a lot of hay with this. And, in one case, blaming the Republicans for not agreeing to the extra spending that they'd already voted on a few months ago and didn't include. That's what's going on. On the other hand, the Republicans are saying the Democrats are calling him Schumer shutdown. And, if you have an issue with the air traffic control stuff, that's on him and the Democrats. Bottom line is, I don't give a crap who's at fault. I've already told you why it shouldn't have happened based on the own words of the former House leader, Nancy Pelosi, as well as Chuck Schumer in the Senate. They both said that a clean CR should not be held up to add a bunch of pork in there and a bunch of other stuff. They've already been on that side of the discussion, which is the side the Republicans are on now. But it's amazing how things go 180, and most consumers, most people have literally no clue. Just FYI, it's called video. Just go search. Just go do a search and you can find it. Okay. Now, with that said, is this the end of the world, this and that? No. It could be an inconvenience. It could delay your flight a little bit, which is what we're seeing mostly. Are there some cancellations? Sure. But FYI, there are cancellations every day in the airline industry for maintenance issues, crew timing out, a whole host of reasons. Okay. So you always have to bring your patience when you travel. And that's what I would implore you to do. Or I would say, hop on a train, book a last minute cruise because these areas are not being affected. Or if you want to get somewhere and you want to be guaranteed to get there and it's under a 6 or 7 hour drive, just drive it. Gas is cheap. These are the things I would be doing. Um, and I'm a traveler. I've been to whatever, something like 80 countries. So yeah, I feel your pain. I've been on a lot of delays, a lot of cancellations, and I just leave it to time to sort those things out. Now, if you're looking at some of these specific places, like Burbank Airport had no air traffic controllers for several hours earlier this week. Why is that? Were they just didn't have the staff, or did the staff call out? So you got a little bit of that going on too, folks. And if they're calling in sick and calling out to make things more disruptive, that's where your ire should be focused. That's where you should be pissed off. That's where I'd be pissed off, because the people that are doing that are trying to make it more miserable to drive home whatever political point, whatever political side they happen to be on. And to be frank, it's effing bullshit. But if those people are doing that and it turns out it's a planned action, fire their asses. That's what I would do. I would fire their asses, because the air system in this country is too important to the economy of this country to have that nonsense. So let's put that to rest. Now, shifting gears into the entertainment side, because there's going to be a little entertainment here. I am literally amazed at the hyperbolic folks in Canada. We're not going there, orange guy, this and that. I know I've addressed this, but do yourself a favor. Just go online and look at some of the discussions that are taking place. I saw a picture of North America, and obviously the joke from Trump was, we're going to make Trudeau the governor of the 51st state. Well, obviously that triggered a lot of folks in Canada. Now, I owned a company in Canada, and there were a bunch of liberals that worked there. Okay, journalism guys, it's just the way it is. I think I've had one conservative journalist that either worked alongside me when I was on the sales side and the advertising sales side, all the way up to owning my own company and running my business. I think I had one editor. We're talking amongst hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of editors that had passed through over time. Talking about 3 decades. One that was considered conservative. That was it. That was it. Now maybe there's one or two that I missed in there, but I guarantee out of hundreds, I couldn't count 5 on a single hand. And I would take that to the bank. Now, with that said, it seems that a lot of people in Canada are really triggered because there's a map that they put out there. Now, on the one side, they're all triggered because Governor Trudeau, the 51st state, ha, 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 right? Guys, I mean, seriously, lighten the fuck up. Lighten up. Bottom line, when I saw a post that showed basically Canada taking over Washington State, Oregon, California, dipping down. I think they were taking Minnesota, parts of Michigan, and basically northern, upstate New York, as well as Massachusetts. I think they include Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire. Like, hey, we're drawing the new map, and this will be Canada, and we'll be the whatever 50 whatever province. I laughed. I didn't get triggered. And then you go and look at the comments, and it's all Canadians. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, so we should there. Yeah, we should blah, blah, blah. And I didn't see a single American, not a single American comment in there going, oh, how dare you? We're so offended. Oh, my God, we're not going to travel to Canada now because of this. So my question to the Canadians, are you that soft? Are you that triggered because you got trolled by a guy who is a master at trolling, and he got the exact reaction that you guys delivered? He read it perfectly. And I laugh because if you knew me in 2015, I wasn't a Trump fan. I wrote a negative opinion piece about some of the stuff he was saying. I didn't think, don't hire me as your political consultant, because I didn't think he had a snowball's chance in hell The one who nailed it from the get-go, which was super impressive, is Scott Adams. If you haven't followed him or listened to his podcast, this might help your TDS up there in Canada. Listen to Scott Adams. He just lays it out. He lays it out. He's entertaining. And it's Scott Adams Says is his podcast. That's also his handle on Twitter and elsewhere. So I would ask you to listen to what he has to say, because he understands, entertainment. He understands, Scott Adams, entertainment. He understands hyperbole. He understands exactly what Trump is doing, and he laughs about it. And I got to tell you, I still can't sit through a full speech. I just don't. It's not my thing. I'm not interested. A lot of it's the same shit over and over again. I don't care. I don't care. What I care about are policies and results, and getting 10 million plus, they say as many as 20 million illegal aliens out of this country. I'm all for it. I'm all for it, because the vast majority of them are taking taxpayer dollars in a situation where we have no excess money. FYI, in the United States, we're running trillion-dollar deficits, and we already have $37 trillion in debt. So we're not interested in giving our money to people that are here to freeload. And that's it. And that also goes for citizens that are sitting around on their Xbox with their iPhone that want to collect benefits but don't want to work even though they're able-bodied. Get off your ass and work. You'll be amazed at what a difference it makes in your entire outlook, the feelings of positivity, et cetera. It's incredible, because you will have a sense of accomplishment that you don't currently have sitting there on your butt. So with that said, lighten up in Canada. Americans aren't being triggered by your post. I laughed at the post. I thought it was funny. Maybe you guys need to take a deep breath and laugh, but I understand, because again, I had employees, well, they were independent contractors that worked for me full time up there. And not much of a sense of humor. So you guys created Second City. A lot of great comedians have come out of Canada. Go listen to Ben Bankus, for instance. He'll square you right up. He'll square you right up. That's what I'm talking about. Like, if you haven't heard of Ben Bankus, he's a Canadian who's really broken out. Hysterical. But I'll bet he triggers a lot of you, especially the ones posting on Facebook. Oh my God. Screw the U.S. We're not traveling there until after that guy's gone. Well, if things continue on, we're going to have J.D. Vance as our next president after Trump for the next 8 years. After Trump, so let's see. You'll probably be dead by then. It's 11 years. I don't know how old you are, but some of you might not make it. So just FYI. We'd love to see you down here. We don't get triggered by your jokes and you trolling Trump and trolling Americans. Please, you shouldn't either. But with that said, let me move on. The fees, it's getting bigger. Yes, it is. I'm going to pull this up because they're even talking about it on Reddit. So I don't know how you guys feel about Reddit, but it's usually a cesspool. But what's interesting here on this is hotels, resorts. This is on Fox News. Oh my God, it's Fox News. FYI, I don't care where it runs, guys. I mean, that's the other thing with you whack jobs that are like, oh, you're going to be on Fox News. Nazis, this and that. Yeah. I had somebody say to me online, just in a comment on one of my pages, shut up, Nazi. Genius. Yeah, I'm a Nazi. Anyway, unbelievable. Just fools. So hotels, resorts accused of charging too many fees, sending fed up vacationers overseas for cheaper deals. So FYI, Canadians, guess what? Yeah, even Americans are finding the U.S. too expensive to travel to. So when you're like, I'm not going to the U.S. because that orange guy's really, really bad and he gets me all upset, I'm going to, yeah, no, it's the money, folks. It's the money. Just like the TD Bank survey said, just like the Blue Cross survey set up in Canada, and just like Fox News and people on Reddit are talking about today. And this is from today, October 7th. Right now, they're saying they're fed up and they're getting cheaper deals overseas. So here it says, starts out, more Americans are packing their bags for international destinations these days rather than domestic trips in an attempt to guard their budget amid high prices and hidden resort fees in the US. Um, one person in the travel forum on Reddit asked, just me, or is the US now far and away the most expensive place to travel to? Person added, even though it costs more to fly internationally, I almost always spend less than if I would go to New York City, Miami, Vegas, or Disney, or any other domestic travel place. Folks, this is what I'm talking about. Somebody from Boston went to Thailand. What'd they find? They're actually saving money on vacation. Have you ever had that experience? You travel, and when you're away, because the cost of food and dining out, if you do a lot of that domestically, is so much cheaper when you're overseas that it offsets the cost of the hotel, and it offsets the cost of the flight. So you can go to Thailand, and if you're going to do it for a long stretch, you can basically eat street food, which is really safe, depending on where you are, right? But you can pretty much eat street food all over Thailand. I wouldn't recommend it in places like Vietnam or Cambodia. However, it's dirt cheap. Like, for instance, I was in Penang. You go to what's called a hawker center. It's a bunch of food carts. And for like $4, you could feed a family of four a delicious meal, like really great food. And with inflation, maybe it's $5 or $6 today, but it's dirt cheap. And people are like ranting and raving. And this is what's great about social media. And hopefully the folks in the hotel and resort industry and the travel industry overall will wake the F up and realize that, yeah, if it costs 300 effing dollars to stay at a Hampton Inn in, let's say, I don't know, you know what, North Carolina, yeah, what do you think it's going to cost to spend a weekend in Vegas? I mean, to fly to Vegas, spend 4 nights in Vegas, round trip air for 2. Let's put it at $500 each for being generous. That's $1,000. Hotel, if you're carving over a weekend, $300, $400, $500, depending on the level you want, right? And then every time you eat out, and you got to eat, right? You got to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner at least, maybe a couple of drinks. Drinks could run $15, $20, $25 for a drink. A steak could cost $50, $70, $85. One steak. So yeah, it adds up to thousands of dollars for a long weekend in Vegas. Where else could you go? What else could you do? And that's what's happening. People are voting with their dollars, and they're not choosing places that have been fat, dumb, and happy. So again, wake up, travel folks. You've had an unbelievable run for the last 4 years. Unbelievable. The revenge travel after COVID, coming out of that, everybody filled up. It went crazy. Rates went through the roof. You guys are banking money. And for those real estate folks that owned hotels in New York City and a bunch of places around the country that were renting them at $400 or $500 a night to the government for illegal immigrants. Yeah, our tax dollars, folks. That took inventory out, which also limited supply. Demand was going through the roof. If you take an economics 101 class, I know a lot of folks on the left have a difficult time doing math. Yeah, higher prices. It's more expensive. Okay, folks, that's what's going on. And you get to a point where people make better choices on their dollars. That's what's happening. So it's kind of funny to hear some of the stuff that I continue to hear from folks in the industry, blaming this, blaming that, blaming tariffs. It's the dumbest argument out there, but keep going with it, and your end result is not going to be a good one. So unfortunately, you'll react too late. And in some cases, you may lose some loyal travelers for a period of time that you will not recover from easily. But then again, 9/11 proved, and so did other incidents around the world, proved that when people have a fear of things like terrorism, if the price is low enough, the fear goes down a little bit, doesn't it? Because people are okay to get back on a plane and travel somewhere. Same with costs. You've got to bring the cost way down, and you got to basically reforecast your year, reforecast the next 3 years, because people will not spend at that level. And it's only a very small group of folks that have the resources to keep going back to places like Vegas and Miami Beach and dropping $500, $700 a night on a hotel. just the way it is. So anyway, I'm not the only one talking about it. Fox News today, Reddit, all over Reddit today, and for several days now, people are definitely fed up. So with that said, what do you got? Growing my hair out. How's it look? You can't see it if you're listening to the podcast, but I'm growing my hair out. So will I go back to my hippie hair? I don't think so. But definitely saving money on haircuts right now. Definitely saving money on haircuts. All right. Last thing I want to hit you with. This is really, really important, and this involves your data. So if you haven't done it yet, and you have an iPhone, most people, have iPhones. That's number one. Or maybe more people have Android. I don't know. Everyone I deal with has a freaking iPhone. So I'm just going to stick to iPhones. So if you are out and about and you're at one of those little kiosks where you can plug into a USB outlet, make sure you go into your privacy settings and make sure you set up your wired accessories. And what that means is hackers, especially in public places, whether it's a USB plug-in at a Starbucks or an airport or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, my phone's dying. I got to have my phone because we can't live without our phones. And you plug in, somebody at that moment could be installing malware on your phone. They could basically get access to all of your financial data, everything that's on your phone, photos, you name it. That would be a really bad thing. But there's a couple of things you can do. So go into your settings. You tap on privacy and security. You go down to security. You go to wired accessories. And when you get to wired accessories, you make sure that the default is not automatically. You do not automatically allow anything to connect. Make sure it prompts you, and then you can decide yes or no. That's what you want to do. Yes or no. And then if you're traveling, just some things to remember. These are for publicly charging your phone. One of the best things to use is number one, just plug into a wall outlet. It's not always available. So if there's no wall outlet and you've got a USB-C or a USB, you better make sure that you're comfortable if all your data gets stolen or malware gets installed on your phone. That's number one. Use a battery pack. They're very cheap these days. You can get a battery pack that could charge your phone 3, 4, or 5 times before that battery pack needs to get recharged. I like the Anker ones, Anker. I don't get paid on any of this stuff. So Anker is the one I would buy, but there's plenty of them out there. You can find them on Amazon. And the only thing you can't do is you can't put those things in your luggage that's checked if you're flying. So just be aware of that. You'd want it on the plane anyway, because again, you're on a plane. Sure, you can plug into the outlet there. If you're plugging in with your charging block, no problem, because data doesn't transfer through a charging block into your phone. You're just charging your phone. But if you've got a USB or USB-C and you're plugging into a public outlet there, just directly into a USB-C or USB, you're risking your data. There are USB data blockers for people that have the older phones. I don't know if there's a USB-C data blocker yet, but I got to assume they have them, and that'll basically act as they describe it, as a small condom in order to block data from going, because it doesn't connect the pins that bring the data in. It only connects the pins that allow you to charge it. So only power will go through. So those are just some tips there. Before you travel, make sure your devices are backed up. Make sure you have the most recent software update on your phone. Make sure you enable two-factor authorization or multi-factor authorization, meaning if somebody does get access to your email and password because they've stolen it from you, which happens to everybody. I mean, I get notifications all the time. Your information has been found on the dark web. And then I get all these stupid things about, here's an invoice for your Outlook. I don't get invoices for Outlook in my email. So I know that is a phishing exercise, because if I click on that, they're going to install malware on my computer and I'm going to have problems, or on my phone or on my iPad, whatever device I happen to be using. If you have the two-factor authentication, what you can do with that is it'll then send you a text or it'll send it to an alternate email. You know what I mean? There's different ways to do it, but absolutely do that. And then I use McAfee um, security software. So to scan my phone, scan my computer, etc. And it's kind of nice about it. It has a VPN with it. So you can use a VPN because the virtual private network will encrypt your connection. And that means that your stuff cannot be stolen. So when you're out and about and you're, hey, it's Starbucks, whatever, wherever you happen to be, and you open up your laptop and you just, hey, log on to public Wi-Fi, big mistake. Again, a lot of those places are hacked. They can steal your data, they can steal your passwords, etc. Make sure you use a VPN, um, and make sure you only visit sites that have an HTTPS for secure. So that's again just another critical thing to think about. Um, Worry about pickpockets. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but yeah, these are like, be aware of your surroundings. Know that there are pickpockets out there. I just got some pants that I love. They're like they're called cargo pants, but not like the big cargo pants, like the goofy ones. It's called 511 Tactical. I saw some lady in Boulder who was working at Chautauqua Park, I believe is how you say it, and she was working. I was like, man, those are great pants. And I'm thinking, they look great on my wife. So I asked her where she got them, and she told me she was like gardening out there in front of a building. She told me the name is 511 Tactical. And what's nice about having clothes like these is you can secrete your phone and other things, valuables that you're traveling with on your person, and they can't access it. They're not going to get to it. So I love that. I also like there's a brand called West Slope. This is like a little it's like a reverse backpack, but it's very thin, and you can use it for concealed carry. If you're a 2A person and you're a concealed carry permit holder, you can do that. You can conceal carry in it. You can have your phone on, and your phone can see right through, and you can run it as if it's like a webcam on your chest. So if you're ever in a situation where you have concerns, you can basically flip it open, hit record, close it back up, and it'll start recording whatever's directly in front of you. Also makes for kind of nice walking videos as you go along. And that's a company called Westslope I recently discovered. So I picked up one of those because I'm a Florida resident and I do believe in the Second Amendment, and I do believe in being able to carry and protect yourself, because you've seen what's going on recently, whether it's in a church, out at a place in North Carolina that, where my sister lives, American Fish, where the lunatic pulled up in the boat and just unloaded on a bunch of people listening to music. I think it was on a Saturday night. If I had left from Jersey a little earlier, there might have been a good chance that I would have been on that deck when that happened. And again, you're not going to stop a bullet coming to you at 400 yards per second out of a high-powered rifle, but you have an opportunity to at least protect yourself to some level. So something else to think about. And the last thing to think about is if you haven't signed up on traveltube.com, you need to do that. And please follow us on all your devices, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook page. We'd love to see you there. We'd love to have a conversation. And if you're a consumer listening to this, we interview these top travel agents and share their insights about destinations and products that they experience. And I think it'd be very interesting to the average traveler, but also great for other agents and other advisors to be able to hear from their peers and understand that if they're visiting a property that's in Mexico and you're visiting a place in Chicago, that we can bring all that content together and share it. And there's a ton of that from travel advisors as well as travel influencers. People say, influencers, whatever. Hey, bottom line is, if you're a travel influencer and you've got great content, we'll go grab it off of YouTube. You don't have to do anything. We'll put it up on the site. And then we can even direct people to you as a travel advisor or you as a travel influencer if they want to follow you. we'll put up all your social media links, but you just have to give us permission to use your content. Otherwise, we just take it and embed it. And, and in that case, you're just tagline travel influencer, and then they'd figure out who you are by clicking on the video. This way, you'd have your own author page, all your details, etc. And I think that'd be awesome for everybody. So please join in, and look forward to talking to you next week. Take care.